Okay, perfect. We are live. Welcome everyone to One More Page Books, the virtual space. I'm Amanda, and I'm so excited to be hosting our lovely guests this evening. We have Jana Kramer and Mike Caussin, authors of The Good Fight.
Yay!
I have to shimmer it a little bit so you can see the proper metallic of the title there. In my slightly dark bookstore space. But welcome, guys. Welcome to One More Page, kind of.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We wish we could do it in person, but maybe sometime next year.
Yes, exactly. We have to say something for the sequel, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Perfect. So for anyone who is watching who doesn't already know you and your work, can you give us a little bit of background about you guys?
Go for it, boo.
I love the teamwork. We're already seeing it.
Right. Yeah, Mike Caussin, married to my beautiful wife, Jana Kramer. Played 5 years in the NFL. Bounced around doing different things professionally after that, and until Jan and I kind of found our niche doing things together.
And I am a country singer. I've released 2 platinum selling singles, a gold single. I'm an actress. I was on One Tree Hill. It's what most people know me from. And I'm a mom. And we're podcasters. And then, yeah, we work together.
Awesome. And then, of course, you wrote this book, again, The Good Fight.
Yes.
I had a lot of questions fielded to me via my coworkers about One Tree Hill that I have mostly set aside, since most of them were sort of, is Chad Michael Murray nice? Until we realized you didn't overlap seasons, did you? Or did you a little bit?
We didn't, but we have done some conventions together, and he's so nice. Yeah, really nice guy. I love his wife, Sarah. Just really, really nice dude. So, and the One Tree Hill fans, it's funny because Mike's never seen an episode of One Tree Hill. He saw one episode on the way to our convention, and he was looking at me so weird on the plane. He was like staring at me, and I was finish that.
Yeah, I was just looking at her. She's like, why are you looking at me weird? I was like, your character is the worst. This conceited, Hollywood big star or whatever. I was like, this is just hilarious because it's so not you.
Well, that's funny. But yeah, so that's about the only episode that he saw. But just anytime we ever play a show or we do our wind down, we say like, where are my One Tree Hillers? And they go
nuts, bananas,
crazy. So I love my Tree Hillers. They're the best.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys got me a lot of kudos with my sister-in-law, so thank you for that. Through this specifically. And that's actually the only question I had, so this is super fun.
Great.
You guys
Awesome.
have a good night.
Cool.
Yeah, you can make your dinner reservation early. But since, of course, we are here to talk about your book, I have a couple of questions about that. I figured that'd be okay.
Yeah.
So to sort of give us the background, can you tell us a bit about sort of your love story and how you two met?
You do it best because you're the timeline.
Get to the point.
Yeah.
Classic love story these days. Met on social media when Twitter
of course.
was a cool place to meet people. We met in 2014. 4 days later, after Jana even knowing I existed, I flew out to Chicago and saw a concert of hers. 10 days later, we said, I love you, and pretty much the rest is history.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
I love that. It gives all of us who, as someone who spent most of my, teen social media years yearning after the Jonas Brothers, this gives me a lot of hope.
Oh, it can happen. Just believe.
Even for little people like me from Northern Virginia, we can do it, baby. We can get out of there.
Perfect. I'll text my husband now and let him know. He'll understand. Yeah, so Mike, you're from the Nova area, right?
Yeah, I'm from Springfield. Went to West Springfield High School, went to James Madison University. My parents and a lot of my friends still live there. So
we got married in Virginia.
We did. We got married in
at Pippin Hill Vineyard.
Pippin Hill Farms.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, one of my coworkers went to JMU as well. So we were really just keeping it nice and tight in the Virginia family here.
Right.
And then you guys are in Nashville now, right?
Yeah, we live in Nashville. We moved here last year from LA. Very
cool. Very cool. Seems like a good time to have a little more space, perhaps.
For sure. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So obviously, your marriage, like everyone's in the world, has had its some ups and some downs, as has been kind of chronicled in the book and throughout your podcast. Was there a specific part of that inspired you to say hey, we should write a book about this, or was it sort of just the next natural step after working together for so long on improving your marriage?
So I had started writing a book soon after we reconciled, and it was more about my life and how I survived domestic violence and just kind of my journey to this point. And what's crazy is that I was actually writing this book before or the treatment before any of this stuff happened in our marriage.
Oh, wow.
I remember sending the first treatment and was like, and now I'm pregnant with my first daughter, Jolie. And so that was the actual first treatment. And then when everything happened, the treatment obviously changed. And, it was one of those things where he read it and he was just like, I don't want any of this in there. And, for me, and why I even wanted to write the book was that I heal from trauma by helping others.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the way that I was like, as much as I want to help other people, I'm like, I personally need this as well. And so it was really hard, but at the same time, it was almost a blessing because it just wasn't the right time. And I think, my agent knew that then, and it was just one of those things that let's just pause on it. And with the success of Wind Down, our podcast, that's when I really was like, Mike, I needed this book, or I needed a book like this when everything went down. And not even just because of, how it destructed, but more so the tools and the things that we could have used in our marriage or a relationship. And so, for me, it was just a book that I really, truly just wanted to, help other people with. And
and I had a hard time with it at first, and that's why when Jana first brought me that first treatment she had, I ripped it up. Not pretty much, I ripped it up. And I was like, I don't want any part of this.
Printed it out, then ripped it up.
Oh yeah, I was still stuck in my shame so much around everything that it wasn't until the podcast and I started being a regular on there that I began co-hosting, that we started opening up about more things. And Jana would share some of the DMs she would get or emails we would get to the podcast email. And, they came pouring in with support of people who go through similar things and just can't talk about it with anybody. So I was like, maybe my wife is right. Like maybe we can help some people with this surprise. So it was really lit the fire for me. And I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah. And again, it was just, and something that we've continued to learn in our relationship is how to fight for each other. Not against each other. And that's been the biggest thing for this book, is we want people, and if you're even not in a relationship, just fight for yourself. And that's, that's the greatest thing you can do for you, for your partner, for your family in general.
Yeah, I love that. And if I may, if you need to do more podcast merch in the future, maybe a t-shirt that says like, maybe it seems like my wife is right would be a good option.
Probably a good one.
Yeah. And then like a thumbs up on the back. So we sort of talked around the book, but can you just give me sort of the elevator pitch for the book itself?
Yeah, kind of like what Jana just said, we want to change the mindset of, instead of fighting against each other, we want you to fight for each other. And so much in relationships, I know I'm guilty of, and we've both been, where we treat each other like the enemy. Mm-hmm. And that wants to invite secrets and lies and withholding things from each other if you look at the other person as the enemy. So instead, we want to encourage people to lean in, to empathize with, things, to tell them vulnerable things that's going on with them. And that just increases your relationship, connection throughout.
Yeah. And I think it's also, a book of tools, a book of, all around laughters and these crazy, stories that we share, but it's a book around faith, and just to have faith that, you can personally get through things. And also if two people work hard at something and they have faith, it can work.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Awesome. And just as a side note for our viewers, you can post comments on the YouTube channel that you guys are watching this from. Hello. And those comments will come through. We'll see them. And if you want to ask questions throughout, we'll sort of answer the questions at the end, but feel free to post them as we go, as you think of them, and I'll keep track of them and we'll come back to them at the end. So just sort of a little housekeeping. I should have mentioned it earlier in the beginning of the podcast, the stream. So I read the book, because otherwise I would have done a pretty bad job moderating. But I loved how much you guys concentrated on the importance of therapy as part of your journey. I was wondering if you could speak more on that.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't have been able to write a book if it wasn't for therapy. And a lot of things in the book we learned from our amazing therapists. Now we've made them our own, and we've kind of been like, okay, and tweaked them and made them what's worked for us. And again, like, I have individual therapy, he has individual, we do couples, and there's just no way that we personally couldn't have done it without therapy. And, we realize that, therapy is expensive. And so this is also another way for people that can't do therapy to get some great tools that we've learned that we can now share with other people.
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of people, like a lot of my friends who've experienced therapy, have trouble finding a good therapist on the first time. Did you have to work on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's something when we talk about it, we've gotten lucky where we had to like, quote unquote, date around, with therapists, but that's the way we kind of encourage people to look at it. Look at it as a relationship, because it is an intimate relationship that you have in your life. You're going to tell this person more than you've probably told anyone else in your life if they're a good therapist and you feel comfortable. So, date around. If, go to a few sessions. If you're not feeling the vibe, then tell them, be like, hey, I think I'm going to look elsewhere. They understand. They have people that do that. So just once you find the right therapist, then lock in on that. That's just the important thing, because you're wasting your time and money if you don't have someone that you're willing to open up with.
Great. Yeah, I love that. So was there anything, I mean, obviously a book can only be so long. Was there anything like advice or a fight or an anecdote that you really wanted to put in the book that didn't make it in?
We really leaving finishing the book, there wasn't anything that we're like, oh, we wish we would have done that. Now we had some late additions,
and if those late additions didn't make it, I mean, we had a whole chapter that we added in. Tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how was that even not in the book? So if that was in it, that would be something where we've been like, oh, such a miss. And then also, we had some changes on Pray on it too. Michael had gotten rebaptized in February. And again, if that wasn't in it, that's another story that is so impactful in our journey, that has impacted our journey. And so, I feel really good about, not feeling like we left anything out, which I was scared of.
Sure.
But, our editor did an amazing job of kind of calming our nerves and being like, it's great. Like, you put everything you needed to put in there.
Yeah. And our editor challenged us enough to bring these extra stories out, or these extra things that we wanted that ended up being in the book that maybe we didn't initially dive deep enough on or whatever. So we credit a lot of it to her, being able to challenge us, that we were able to get everything we wanted to into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, as people here who read a lot of books, we very much love the importance of a good editor. So I'm glad you guys have such a good relationship with her.
Hands down, the best editor ever. I mean, she was everything. She was the first believer in our book, and she's just, our book turned out amazing because of her and her help. So, because we wrote it ourselves, we didn't have a ghostwriter, and she, she could have easily. We've never written anything like that before, a book. And so she could have easily been like, yeah, I should probably hire a ghostwriter, but she
sure
to write better. And we really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's such a cool thing that you can look back. I mean, obviously ghostwriters are amazing. No shame in that game. They do great work. But to be able to look at something and be like, this is entirely yours is a very cool thing, especially for something so personal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have sort of the opposite question, like a favorite section of the book, or whether that section was just really fun to write, or you just think the message is super important?
I mean, the hardest chapter to write was Pray on it, because of the story that I told in there, and just my relationship with God and being so far away from it. So that was definitely the hardest. But I think the funnest chapter I had was probably Claim Your Baggage. Even just the story about packing and how I throw stuff in Mike's suitcase. It was just funny, but it's also recognizing your baggage is just important in life in general, to be like, this is what I'm going to bring to this friendship or this relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Or sorry, go on, Mike.
I was just saying, mirroring what Jana said, the hardest for me too was Pray on it as well, just because, that we got into a deeper level of vulnerability with that chapter in ways that we hadn't on the podcast or with anybody else around us. So reading that chapter, and all of you who are reading it, that's the first time we've ever talked about those things. So that was definitely the hardest and one of the most emotional for us. Funnest chapter, which one was it that we started with the fight?
The fight? I think it was chapter 7.
Chapter 7?
Yeah.
Chapter 7.
Yeah. 7, because we were going back and forth on an argument, which is
because it was fun to write, and it was one of those, there were a lot of triggering moments during writing this book, right, where feelings and emotions were brought back up around this, where Jana was feeling pain, I was feeling shame around things, and we got into arguments about some stuff.
It wasn't that one.
It wasn't 7.
No.
Well, but you all should also read chapter 7. Read the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
I think it was communication.
Communication. That's what it was. It was communication. And so writing that, it was and talking about that fight at the beginning of the communication chapter was fun because we were able to look back and laugh at ourselves. We're like, we were so ridiculous. Like this, we could have easily avoided this if we just did this. So
kind of like the other day.
But
it just happens, you know, and we have to just,
it's life.
Every day we're like, why didn't we just say it like this? It would have probably not.
It's all easier in hindsight.
You know.
You don't get mulligans all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how they say hindsight is 20/20, though they might need to change that after this year.
Yeah.
A new expression entirely. Hindsight is a different thing.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I feel like that's so important for people to like hear that you guys do still fight and are not, sort of the perfect, obviously, the cover of your book, you guys look like the sort of perfect couple. You look like you like have an HD TV show you're like running off to do. Good to know you're still like real within that.
We were fighting right here. During the day.
No, we were
really
at the beginning of the
Oh yeah,
show.
during this shoot, this specific shot we were fine, but this shot we were fighting. We
were fighting the good fight though,
Yeah.
let me tell you.
We were still powering through it. So no, we are not this relationship perfect guru couple.
But that's also why we do what we do, is because we want people to know that it's normal to not be perfect in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It is just normalizing the fact that we still have our tough days, and that's okay because we're still working for each other, not against each other. We're still working together. We're still fighting for each other, and we're still, doing it the best way and continuing to grow and acknowledge. And I think that's what's so important for other people to see too, because especially in social media, you look at other couples and you're like, wow, they must have it all. And it's like, there's no perfect couple. There just isn't. I don't know. There is.
Sorry to break it to y'all.
Yeah, some couples are just better at Instagram than other couples.
Yeah, that's all it comes down to.
I love that. I love the baggage chapter. Always got me too, because it always makes me think of that one episode of How I Met Your Mother, where they're like carrying all the baggage, like the physical baggage around. I think it's such a good metaphor for everything. I think it's super interesting though that you guys opened up so much in the sort of Pray On It chapter, especially with it being based a little bit, Mike, around your baptism, since that was in February, which is obviously in book time, like 2 days ago. So was that a stressful thing to sort of add that in at the last second?
Yeah, that and the To Tell the Truth chapter, and Jana just kind of pleaded with our editor. We're like, look, this is basically the synopsis of what we need to add. And as soon as we sent that to her, she's like, yep, okay, we're going to make this happen. We wrote it well, but quickly. We grinded it out in a couple of days and got it to him so it could make the book, but it was all worth it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah. That, if you would have asked me what I would have regretted, if I would have said those things if it wasn't in there.
That's fair. Well, it's awesome. And it's great that you're able to, shove it in there. Like I'm picturing like the day before they go to print, they're like, no, one more page, put it in. Perfect. So obviously relationships for a lot of people are being a little bit more strained now because you guys may remember there's a pandemic going on. I know you've been busy writing your book, but you probably did notice something about that.
Oh, yeah.
So couples a lot of times are, being tested in different ways. They're stuck together or they're stuck apart. Or they have new stressors with their families. Is there anything that you would adapt or offer differently or just new techniques that you guys have learned in your own life for sort of the COVID-19 era?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we had a real tough time the first 2 weeks. I mean, we were at odds. We were bickering. We were not communicating good. And I think it was just because we weren't used to being literally on top of each other and stuck in the kids and just it was really tough. And so we had to really dive deep into some of our therapy toolbox. And I will say the one thing that we learned, I think best, and something that I think a lot of couples it could benefit, especially if you work from home. First of all, your spouse or your friend or whatever can't mind read. So I'd be like, how could he not know that I have to take this call and I don't want the kids screaming? But it's like, he doesn't know because I didn't ask him. I didn't tell him what I needed. And I think telling your spouse or your partner, your friend, like what you need is huge because it's also offering them knowledge into what your partner needs. So just asking for what you need, I think is just huge. Like, hey, I need 5 minutes. I need 10 minutes. I need an hour just away to even just do nothing, like, or like do some work or whatever it is, whatever you need, just express that. And don't let your partner mind read because I've done it for years with Mike and he's never going to read my mind ever. Never.
That's obviously disappointing, but what can you do?
It took me 6 years to figure that out, but
She finally threw in the towel. Like, okay, you're not going to become a mind reader. I give up. I'll tell you what I actually need. It worked. It worked in spades. I mean, it really did after those first couple of weeks. And, me just telling her, like, look, just if you need time, if you need to do this, just let me know, and vice versa. And it's great now where we can just kind of, it doesn't have to be this big thing around. It's like, hey, I need 5 minutes. Okay, go. I got the kids, or whatever it may be. We're just on the same page, and it manages expectations throughout the day. So there isn't that passiveness, there isn't that mind reading and everything. So that's been helpful a lot.
Yeah. And have you, because I know reading the book, like Mike, you talked a lot about your coping mechanisms involving specifically leaving the house, like going to the movies and things like that I imagine, I mean, I'm not in Tennessee, are also less possible there than they are here in Virginia.
Yeah.
Have you found other coping mechanisms to sort of separate yourself without separating yourself?
Yeah, that one's been a killer, because that was the thing, that I've talked about on the podcast, I've talked about in the book. For me, I mean, as childish as it may seem to some, I mean, I play a little bit more video games than I have in the past, and that's just because I needed something. I needed to go upstairs and just get away, because we already work together and live together and have kids together. So it's like, I need a little something to get away. So I got back into that. I was building some Legos for a while, and I mean, so things here and there. I like to tinker. I like to try different things. But
what are we going to do with that Lego set, by the way? Because it's still sitting out on the. Look, we talk about it now, an audience.
You can't rush perfection.
It's you've stayed on step 64 for about 3 months.
Right. Well, it's been nice out. Now it's about to start getting cold. Daddy's gonna be inside more. I'm gonna need a little bit of space inside. I can't go play golf all the time.
I finally moved it from the work shed area, because it was, he always says he wants an organized garage, but it's never organized.
Every time I clean it, kids' stuff is there.
Chaos. It's organized chaos.
For sure.
His area. But
she cleans it up, and I can't find anything.
Well, no, I tried to go in there and surprise him with a clean garage. So I'm taking his Lego toys and I'm making cute little home edit style whatever.
Lego adult.
And he
models.
was so upset with me. He's like, where's my Legos? And I'm like, they're all right here, in each different section. And they're sitting there.
I'm like, I left that towel on the floor for a reason.
It's weird, because I thought I had left my husband at home, and I didn't realize he'd gone to Tennessee and snuck into your house.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of Slay the Spire as his video game of choice. If you need another suggestion, it's been a good one. And Jana, you talked a lot about your coping mechanism, sort of being involved around a lot of people and loving to be around people. Has that changed at all with sort of your more forced being around people all of the time?
Yeah, she thinks I'm her people. So every day she just wants to be like, hey, what are we going to do? I'm like,
I'm like, you want to have lunch? Want to do this? I'm like, okay. What do I do? No, it's super hard. I've been FaceTiming a lot more. Luckily, we have our core group now that we've started to see the last few months. So that's been really nice. But yeah, it was really hard in the beginning, because I'm such a hugger, and I like to invade people's personal space. So it's just, it's my favorite place to be. The closer, the better. So unfortunately, he's had to take some of that. But I'm dealing. It's good.
Well, whenever you guys come and do an event here, we will hug aggressively, and it will be great.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I kind of want to move into some of the sort of writing process itself. Did you guys have to do a lot of research going into the writing process, or were you mostly able to pull from sort of your own experiences with therapy and what you learned there?
Yeah, it was really mostly from our own experience and our therapy. Fortunately and unfortunately, we had a couples intensive during this time as well, where we added, we acknowledged them in the acknowledgments, Bill and Lori Loki. And they gave us some great tools that we use that we talk about in the book with the safe talk process, and among other things. But, Jana has a whiteboard behind her desk in our office. Our desks face each other. So she'll just get up there. We'll start rambling off ideas, get the topics that we want to touch on for the chapter. And then we'll kind of go our separate ways, because we found out we cannot work in the same room together.
No chance
at all. So,
and then we would find quotes too, and okay, what chapter could this be really cool in? What quote fits this? So,
yeah, we wanted to leave people with something, at the end of each chapter. We wanted people to not question, wait, what did I get from that chapter? Was it just where was the message? So Jana was really good at making sure we had a definitive, direction with each one.
Yeah, I love that. So the co-writing process is always so interesting because it seems like no pair of co-writers ever does it the same way. There's not like, this is how you write a book with somebody else. So what did that look like for you? You said you couldn't work in the same room, so I'm guessing it wasn't as collaborative as some people get, but they're like doing sentence by sentence.
I mean, I would have loved that.
Sure.
I mean, I had like a calendar all written out. I was like, this week we're doing this, and then we're going to edit this. But we didn't know, and I didn't know the writing process, so I didn't know that it takes a certain amount of time to get edits back, or it takes a certain amount of time to write a chapter. And so, I created this calendar that was not even used.
Got thrown out pretty quick.
That's an optimistic calendar.
Yeah, and then he writes like, I want to mind mouth and write it together. He does not. He puts on his headphones. And so that was kind of his thing. Like, we talked about the first, like, each chapter together. We were like, okay, and our editor really helped us with laying that out as well. Like, hey, this story should be from Jana. So it's like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And then this is what our we voice is going to sound like. And then we kind of bullet point each chapter. And then I'll go in the screen and porch and write, or, wherever I wrote on this, we have this chair in our room, I'd write there. And then, he would just write in the office, with his little headphones on. And then he would take like a 3-hour lunch. And
gotta fuel up.
And then, after that, I would,
That's football metaphors right there.
No, it's the thing is, like, we started trying to write it together across from each other. And the first issue was, you would have thought Jana had an old school typewriter because she was typing so loud. All you're missing was a ching. That, and then every 3 minutes over my computer screen, I'll see this.
I'd raise my hand.
Hand would go up, and I'll be like,
question.
yes. She'd be like, okay, well, I'm writing this one part, and I need your help with, and I'm like, I'm trying to write too. You're asking me questions every 3 minutes. You're typing too loud. I was like, we got to separate.
But then when we separated and then we wrote and then came back together, it was great because it was just fresh ears, and we made it work. Now we know what to do for book 2.
Yes, I love that. Also, Jan, I think you and I might be kindred spirits in a lot of those ways. So I appreciate it. I would have answered your question.
That mean your husband will go play Lego.
Perfect. We'll double date it the next time you're in Nova. It'll be cool.
I love it.
Yeah. And I won't ask any questions about Chad Michael Murray. So maybe one. But so obviously you two have a very popular podcast as well, Wind Down, which is kind of where a lot of this comes from. So you've worked on a collaborative project before in that sense. Was the collaboration for the book similar to that, or was it just a sort of new type of collaborative process?
No, it was new just because it was uncharted territory for both of us. You know what I mean? Like, neither one of us have previous experience necessarily writing or being authors. I mean, besides college papers that I had to write, something I've always been fairly decent at. But
I'm not. The only thing I don't think I ever wrote. I didn't go to college, so I didn't have to write any papers. I'm pretty sure I just did extra credit a lot in high school, so to get the grade.
So it was just a journey. It was a journey that we were both figuring things out for the first time together, which was part of the fun, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you guys had to pick like one takeaway for readers from your book, which I know like there's no one takeaway, everyone should take the whole book away, but everyone who's watching this bought the book already, so we're good there. What would you want that one takeaway to be?
I would, and this has always been something I've always wanted people to know, is that you're just not alone. You're not alone in your struggles. You're not alone in your frustrations or your fears or anything that you may think. You're not alone. And that's what I want people to know when they read this, that you're not alone. It's not everything is perfect, but that we all have a lot to look inside and grow on, and that we can always be growing. So you're not alone, and there's always room for growth in yourself and in relationships.
Yeah, for me, the biggest takeaway is just like, going through adversity and hard times is not easy when you're going through them. But if you continue to follow your feet, that's something I learned in my 12-step program, is when you're feeling down or in a rough place, just follow your feet. Your feet know where to take you. If you let your head get in the way or anything like that, but your feet follow your heart. So just follow your feet to the next thing. And, day after day, just follow your feet, and you'll end up getting out of that rut. You'll end up getting out of that place, and you'll be staying true to yourself because you're following your feet to wherever you know you want to go.
Awesome. Very cool. So we have a couple of comments coming in from our YouTube audience. So Catherine Cron says that their book just came in today and is so excited to read it. Loves listening to the two of you on Wind Down. So not a question, but just a very excited comment.
Thank you, Catherine.
And Amber wants to know, and Amber stole my question because I had this written down too, but since she put it in the comments, I'll let her have it. What's next for you two professionally?
I'm going to launch my country music singing career. Jana's considering professional sports in some capacity.
Yes, tennis. I really want to get better at tennis. No, I have a movie coming out November 7th called The Welcome Home Christmas on Lifetime. So excited about that. And we would love to hopefully do some speaking engagements. And that's where I think we would like to go into next and just be able to go out there and meet people and kind of tell our story and hopefully help people along the way.
Yeah, we both are, Jana has a lot of things. She's always creating something. She's got a lot of things going in the woodwork. I got a few things that I'm working on, by myself, but most of the things that we do are together, and that's where we want to build this and continue to grow.
The next thing professionally is I'm going to get the calendar ready for what book 2 is and get us on our writing schedule.
So do we have book 2 sort of in the woodwork? Is it a continuation of this sort of story? Is it a different sort of thing?
I've got it all in my head, girlfriend.
Fair enough. I don't want to split any trades.
2, 3, 4 right here planned out.
Perfect. Listen, you write enough of them. Soon you'll have just like a YA trilogy coming out of you and a murder mystery too. Like we'll get the full Caussin and Kramer experience.
Move over, Harry Potter. Here we come.
But listen, we need to move them over anyway. We're well primed for new stuff there. You guys are set. Perfect. So we've got time now for some more questions if people want to pop them into the comments. If not, we can keep chatting. Is there anything that, I think this is always good, like things that you guys wish you were asked more, these sort of interviews that we didn't talk about yet?
That's a good question.
Thanks.
Great question. No, I mean, I feel like we get a pretty good wide range of, like, there isn't anything that I like miss, or that like there's something else I'd want to like say, or like I don't know.
No, I mean, I think everyone's done a good job that we've talked to, including you, Amanda. I mean, I think it's been great.
Oh, and Catherine, like Mike, Catherine is also an alumni of JMU. Go Dukes!
Bleed purple.
Thank you. Very sweet. Thank you for writing that. So sweet.
Yeah, yay, Catherine. So other question, I'm curious, because obviously you guys get very real in this book, which is fabulous. I think it really helps your readers. But I'm wondering what the reaction to that sort of is, the people who know you in real life, like your family and your friends. Do they have any reaction to this?
Yeah, a few. I mean, my dad obviously wasn't super excited about the things that I wrote about him in the book. And I just kind of told him that it was, my story and how I perceive things growing up. And, but I feel like I did a good job in the book as well to say, there's this caption, like the blame game. And, because I did blame him for a long time for my relationships and the things that I struggled with, but I don't blame him anymore. My actions are my actions, and I chose to live a certain way. And, I think we all come with childhood wounds, and like I said, we have baggage, but, my dad and I now, and he just was kind of like, he said it was really hard to, hear some interviews and see the things that you wrote, but I just want to focus on today, not the past. I want to focus on the future. And I was like, 1,000% me too. Like, I don't want to go back there. Like, our relationship now is amazing. Like, I love my dad. We're as close as ever. And so that's where I'm like, yes, like 1,000% future. I'm not trying to go past either. This is just a big part of my story and who I am and who I've been. So I couldn't leave that out. And same thing with my mom, reading certain things. It's like, they take it so personal, which I understand. But again, I hope that they can see that by no means was I continue. I'm not trying to drag them through anything. I just am saying this is my story and part of it. But I love them so much, and I appreciate their support.
Yeah, family's been really supportive, and with our friends too, they've been incredibly supportive. And the cool thing about that is we have friends and even people who are more acquaintances, we find them coming to us when they're dealing with issues or whatever. So it's like because of what we've been talking about openly for the past, 2 years on the podcast and with this book, we just invite vulnerability, which has been really cool because we love that, because it helps us just as much as everybody else. We want those friendships in our life. We don't want meaningless friendships. We want friends that are willing to connect and have a deeper conversation.
Yeah. Awesome. And I mean, in a way too, I guess, in sort of the way that celebrity memoirs often play out, because so much of what has happened to you guys played out sort of over the press and over the media, maybe this is more of a chance to get to tell your own story and take back the control of it that you didn't have as much while it was sort of happening.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was always said to Mike too. I'm like, we get to control the narrative. I'm like, because he thought it would just go away. I'm like, you don't understand. Like every time they print something about us, they're going to say he previously cheated or this happened. I'm like, we can change the narrative. We can make this positive. We can turn this crap into frickin' lemonade. Like, let's,
They still say it in all their articles, but it's just not the first thing they say.
Yeah, at least
it's going farther down in the story.
You get like the third sentence and it's below the fold, so it's chill.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And if they're going to talk bad about you guys, you may as well get the royalties off of it, so. Awesome. So obviously you two have a lovely family as well. We saw them on the back of the book. How has that sort of influenced your journey here?
Oh, everything. I mean, Jolie was the reason I initially stayed. She's, and now, I stay for me because I want to stay, because I am happy and because we are continuously working on our relationship and for the family. But, our goal is to always have them under one roof. I was raised in a divorced family. It was obviously I had issues from it, and not saying that, it can't, it's bad one way or the other. It's just what we personally want is we want to try our hardest to keep the kids under one roof. But at the same time, if we're fighting constantly and it's not healthy, then okay, the best thing to do is, but we truly believe that with the tools, going to therapy, that we can fight the good fight for our family and for each other.
Very cool. Very nice. I love that. So hang out for another minute or two, see if any more questions are coming in. Been loving seeing the support coming in through our YouTube comments. Also to see fellow JMU alumni coming through, which is always fun. So what is we sort of know what's next for you guys career-wise. Do you have anything else sort of looking forward to in your lives? Obviously, quarantine is probably putting a bit of a damper on some of those various travel plans and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of opening up a little bit. We were closed for quite a while, but I feel like, we're going on our first beach vacation with the kids in a few weeks. So we're excited about that. We're obviously going to be safe. We're just renting a little Airbnb and going to go to the beach. And then we're going to go on a little trip ourselves without the kids. And yeah, we're taking baby steps back out there.
Yeah. I think that's the right, because that way when you've taken, you're like, oh, one step too far, not comfortable anymore, just take it back.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not like stranded in Las Vegas when you realize that.
Oh no, I don't want to. I like to go to secluded places, so we're like going to like just us on a beach or like no. Mm-mm. Yeah. Well, now that we're hitting like off season too, that seems like a good time to be testing out things like a beach or a mountain or things like that. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll wrap up. Anything you guys want? Oh, I've got one more. Thank you, Amber. Amber wants to know how it was working with Parnassus, which is, of course, the Nashville, one of our favorite Nashville indies. Are they your local store?
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Amber, are you a spy for Parnassus right now?
No, I mean, we really wanted to support a local, bookstore just because it was hard times. It's still hard times. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that we, that we supported our local bookstore.
And they've been amazing to us. I mean, incredibly helpful with some of the book signing things we've done and just getting books to us. And they've been amazing to work with.
They have. So all of you watching right now, go to One More Page bookstore because it's so amazing to support local businesses and local bookstores. So shop local. Amazon's fine, but if you're wanting to get a book, go to One More Page.
Yeah. We don't even call them Amazon here. We refer to it as Voldemort only. Do not use the full name.
I love it.
Yeah. And we obviously adore Parnassus too. I mean, listen, if it came down to a fight, we'd obviously take one more page, but Parnassus is a top choice for non-one more page stores for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Sherry says, huge fans of both of you. I love Mike Mondays on Instagram and can't wait to be able to see all of you at a future event in person.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thanks, Sherry.
And Sherry, I think, summed up how we all feel. This was great, and hopefully we'll be able to do a real thing soon. But until then, I'm so glad we're able to do virtual events like this. So we still get to talk and interact and share your stuff with people who maybe wouldn't be able to come to those live events.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, guys. And for those of you watching, thank you again. I know you all bought your books to be here. Thank you so much for supporting One More Page. But we do have a few more signed copies available. So tell your friends. They can still get the book, and you can pass it around among each other, get a book club, all that fun stuff going. And have a great rest of your night.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
so appreciate it.
See y'all.